wing is going to need replacing if it takes too much damage.
We've got fast sweeping corners under the lights and 20 racers all ready to write their name into the quickly growing history of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. So let's take a look at the topographical map of the Jeddah Street Circuit. As you can see, a number of challenging corners for the drivers to master here. We'll see just how much the teams have benefited from their time spent in practice this weekend. And like many street circuits, this track has the potential to punish drivers that get it wrong. Let's hope we avoid any safety cars today. So with the race not far away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Yuki Tsunoda lines up on pole position, and starting next to them is George Russell. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Antonelli, Verstappen, Oscar Piastri, and Norris, Hamilton, Leclerc, Stroll, and Fernando Alonso, Lawson, Hadjar, Carlos Sainz, and Albon, Behrman, Doohan, Gabriel Bortoleto, and Pierre Gasly. Hülkenberg and Esteban Ocon lines up at the back of the grid. It's almost time for those 5 red lights to go out then. Let's see who can prevail today. And alongside me today is a man who needs no introduction, but I'll try anyway. It's Ant Davidson. Look, we know it's not where you start, it's where you finish. But let's talk about the start now. What's there to help the drivers get away well?
Big pressure at the start of the race, Crofty, for all of them up and down the grid, no matter where you are. But the drivers these days, they practice, practice and practice. They have rigs with them at the circuit where they can sit down with the actual steering wheel from the real car, and they've got lights that they react to. The clutch paddle is tailored around the driver's hands, around their fingers, so they can have optimum position before they start. So there's so much thought and effort that goes into getting these cars off the line.
Okay, radio check, radio check.
Radio check.
That front wing is going to need replacing if it takes too much damage. bit out there. Let's keep these passes clean so we don't end up with a penalty, okay? might make a mistake. We've been given a time penalty. It will go against our finishing time at the end of the race. Get your head down and let's get it done. Green flag.
Yeah, big missed opportunity today.
You managed it really well, so let's look at it in the data.
It's Yuki Yahei! Yuki Tsunoda wins!
I mean, it looked like they were in a different category at points during the race, led every lap. I mean, what more can we say?
What a day it's been for Formula One, and what a day it's been for these three drivers. Time for the podium celebrations. Time for our drivers to celebrate. What a victory for a very popular young man. Yuki Tsunoda takes the top step today.